Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we've got crazy news. We've got a new OCG ban list. Sometimes I don't even make videos on OCG ban lists because like some of them are just like small hits and they're not even that relevant to what we already have in the TCG coming up for like our future ban list. But this one is ginormous. This ban list is crazy. And I know it's an OCG ban list, but I do keep track of like the metagame breakdowns on Road to the King. Shout out to them; they're a great source for keeping you updated on what the OCG formats are looking like. And this is the most recent one. This is literally from the week of August 27th to September 4th. So very recent. Tierlament still sitting here with like a 50% top cut. Clip, insane. Sprite at 21%, still respectable. And keep in mind, this is Sprite without Totally Awesome, like still performing like this. I believe they had Toad banned on the last ban list for them. So like without Toad, they're like most powerful end board piece. They are still performing this well. You also have the grass, and even this 6.4%. This is another deck that like also uses tier. It's like a giant amalgamation deck of like millable archetypes, whatever, it works. And then Bisted, other stuff, whatever. That's not as important. But just keep in mind, this is what like the most recent list has looked like. And keeping that in mind as well, when you look at the, almost every deck list for like tier right now has like the orange lights and like pretty much playing like as many as you can of the Shizu Fairy cards as well. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So let's get into this ban list. Let's get moving and we'll talk about stuff. Newly banned cards. These are the only two cards getting banned on this list here. Wandering Griffin Rider and Union Carrier. This is a really interesting move here. As far as I could tell, I thought like the Adventure Engine had already like stopped seeing play for the most part. I mean, because I believe they put the Water Enchantress to 1 and Rite of Aramasir to 1. I was already arguing this in the TCG where I was like, if we ban Griffin Rider, can we just leave Rite and like Aquamancer or Water Enchantress at 3 and like that engine still be around, right? You still get the Draco back out to different cards on the field. You can still go into a Legal Knight as a card. It's not as much of a blanket protection for your stuff, but it is still an interruption and a removal that's pretty powerful. So like maybe the engine would still be okay. I don't know. Union Carrier. This card has always needed to go. We've been seeing Sprite decks using this. I believe it's Sprite decks have been using this to just Destruction Sword. What's it called? Dragon. The Buster Blader little dragon guy. It equips that to one of your dark monsters on field. Boom, your opponent is Buster locked. That's right. Cannot use the extra deck at all. We know that's broken in Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2022. That this should not exist. This or Dragon Buster should not exist, but probably just Dragon Buster because this card will come up in other ways. So yeah, pretty cool. Moving on to our limit. So this is where it gets crazy. Swap Frog gets limited here. This is, I believe, with Toad banned in the OCG. They limited Swap as well. Does that mean they're going to unban Toad? Because it's like, you can't make it as easy? Like, what, I don't know with this. What do we do with this? I don't know. I know it's an engine that's seen play in some tier decks. I know it's seen play in some, almost every Sprite deck. So, okay. Then we see Agito and Keldo, 2 of the Ishizu Fairies going from 3 to 1, massively hitting consistency to those Tierlament Ishizu decks, and really there are other decks too that are playing the Ishizu cards, but just so you can't just play 3-3-3-3, now you can only play 3-3-1-1 of each of these. I actually like leaving Keldo at 3 because that card is just like a generic hand trap, so I kind of think that card could come up just as a hand trap, and I don't think like it's a super ban worthy card at this point, but yeah. Next up, Jet goes to 1 as well. That's also insane. An insane hit to Sprite again. Jet's one of the best starter, or I guess extenders for the deck. But it's so good, right? It puts itself on the field and then gets you another card. That's crazy. Herald of Orange Light going to 1. This card's unplayable now, I think, probably, in Ishizu Tierlament because what are your odds of opening this? Now you're gonna have one Kelbeck, 1 Agito, and then 3 of the other 2. So 8 plus the 1 of this. You're going to have 9 total, including this card, which means you have to open this with 1 of 8 other cards in your deck. You're starting to get a little wishy-washy on how often you're actually going to be like seeing it in a playable like fashion, and it's only a 1 of at that point. Like, do you just cut it entirely? That's possible. So yeah, like this card becomes like much worse because you wanted like 2 orange lights is fine because you had to discard something for orange light anyway, but can't do that now. Yata, this has always been a card that can come off the list. Happy to see that. The Tearlament Field Spell. Even more. Fuel for the Fire. Another hit to Tearlament. This is a huge consistency card as well as a removal piece. It's one of like an insane field spell, right? It's just a search on activation, and it just pops stuff when you do your fusion summons, which is crazy. So this card's insane. I get it. Wow, big hit there. Sprite Starter. Again, like, crazy. I thought the restriction on this was fair enough, locks you into like 2s. But no, apparently it's still too good. I get it. It is like an E-Tele card, but holy crap. The Mysterious Map goes from semi-limited to limited, so that even this one gets hit 1 copy here. That's pretty crazy as well. I don't know how well Floowandereeze. I hadn't seen a ton of stuff about Floowandereeze in the OCG, but this would definitely be a hit that a lot of TCG players would like to see, or at least like Barrier Statue, just to take out like the most degenerate thing they do out of their deck. And then Time Seal. Time Seal could always come back. This card stinks. And then we get to the semi-limits. Look at how huge this ban list is. ABC. I believe it was ABC at 1. Oh, why is that? That's so weird. ABC was at 1. Now it's at 2. Okay, good to see. Cool for that. Iris Magician was at 1. Now it's at 2. We already have this card at 3, I believe, now. Water Enchantress from 1 to 2 copies. Okay, so like I said, you ban Griffin Rider, and I think it takes away like the safest play you can do, the safest payoff for the Adventure Engine. I honestly think with Griffin Rider banned, you could completely release Water Enchantress and Rite of Aramasir, but that's a start. Havness also going to 2. I think partially because this card allows you to play on your opponent's turn going second and get things started. They wanted to kind of limit it, and especially with like the Ishizu cards, those getting milled, like your likelihood of milling good cards just so high with the Ishizu cards. So hitting them a little bit there, plus with the field spell, you're not finding this card as often. Like, cool. Shifter to 2. I know a lot of people are clamoring for this in the TCG as well. They think it's one of the most broken things that certain rogue decks can play, like Floowandereeze, like a couple other decks. I play it in stuff like Zephyra. Pure Zephyr can play this insanely well. If you can, it's a huge leg up on the format, because like every format now, like every deck except for maybe one, like a Floowandereeze in a format, like is decimated by this card. Torn Scales, is this one that went to 1? For some reason I believe this one went to 1. Yeah, so if Torn Scales is at 1, now it goes to 2. Cool for Phantom Knights, like they haven't really been doing anything too powerful recently. And Lightning Storm. From unlimited to semi-limited, I guess this card's been seeing like a ton of side deck play, and the OCG has even done things like putting Ash Blossom to 2 at times, just because they don't like it when everybody side decks the same thing or plays the same thing in their main deck. So, cool, that works. But another tier limit. It's literally like if you're looking at tier limit, Ishizu tier limits, you're literally looking at the field spell, Orange Light, Keldo or Kelbeck. I think that's, I can't remember. I mix up their names all the time, but this one right here, Agito and Havness. Literally 5 hits to tier limit Ishizu. And even for sprites. Looking at sprites too. Some people would play the Adventure Engine with sprites. I mean, not anymore, but Union Carrier is a hit to sprite. Swap Frog is a hit to sprite. Jet is a hit for sprite. Starter is a hit for sprite. And yeah, like literally 4 hits to sprite, 5 hits to tier limit. Insane. And then for the unbans, a bunch of stuff. Gen X Ally, Birdman. I don't know if he got a edit to his text or something to make him a hard one's return or something, but like whatever. Jackalope. Jackalope was semi-limited, now completely unbanned. Actually, all of these were semi-hit. So Spiral Resort, I think if Spiral Resort, it can totally be at 3 if Master Plan stays banned. Widow Anchor goes from 2 to 3. That's a nice little bump for Sky Striker for sure. And then Magical Meltdown. Remember when we were clamoring every single ban list that like Invoke needs to be hit? And now with like a year later with just like a little more power creep, where nobody gives a shit about Invoked at all. Crazy. But yeah, this ban list is huge. This is just a complete decimation of Tearlament and Sprite. I am extremely excited to see what the OCG like next meta breakdown will look like after all this stuff is said and done. And one other thing is like we're also like just over a month away from them getting like fully Photon Hypernova. I'll say this, the reveals for that set are not too meta impacting so far. I think the Photon Galaxy Eye stuff is cool, but like it's going to be like the Blackwing stuff. It's a cool deck, but it's not going to be meta or anything. And then we got like the Chaos stuff with the restrictions that are so brutal. I don't think that's going to be meta warping. And the Gishki stuff, which it's Gishki stuff. I'm sure it's going to be like really scary if you go second, but going first, you probably handle their cheeks pretty well. Yeah, so I'm kind of sitting here and I'm like, okay, we need some crazy reveals for that set to really like, you know, open up some things. We have no new archetypes yet in that set so far. So maybe we'll get 1 or 2 of those, and those will be the new archetypes that rotate around and like fill in the format. But we will obviously have to see. If not, we could be in a weird spot where like now these decks are kind of like decimated in the OCG. If we don't get anything in Photon Hypernova to kind of like renew the format and give us some new life, we might have to wait for a whole nother core set, like a whole nother 3-month period before actually getting something that like, you know, swings the format around. But still, I'm still really excited because these decks have just been dominating, you know, metagame report after metagame report. And I'm excited to see what the format looks like with these decks. And also, I'm sure that some of these decks will still see some play. Most of these are consistency hits, not complete like, oh, the deck doesn't have plays anymore. Like, there's still going to be plays available, just a lot of consistency hits. You're going to have a lot more filler cards in these decks, but we'll see where those end up at the end of the day. So very, very cool. Just want to throw this at you guys. We're still a little early on this for us. We're still waiting on our first ban list though, post Power of the Elements. So we'll see what happens there when that eventually comes, but very, very interesting to see. So I want to know your guys' thoughts. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think about this ban list and what it could mean for the TCG side of things as that comes around. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.